Hello and welcome back. I'm James Skiffins.
I am Malcolm Childs, and this is the Just Making Conversation podcast,
where we discuss the swings and roundabouts of the model making hobby that put us over the moon or get our knickers in a twist.
From posable statues to disposable scalpels and everything in between, we are going to be just making conversation. Remember, there are other podcasts that you can listen to.
Plastic Model Mojo,
100th episode, by the way, Model Podcast,
the Plastic Posse Podcast,
On the Bench,
Model Geeks,
the Sprue Cutters Union,
Small Subjects,
Built Sideways,
modelled by Carl Puden.
That'll do.
It's close enough.
The Micro Machines Podcast,
Show Podcast,
and the Modelling Insanity Podcast. Head to modelpodcasts.com for all the links.
If you've had a jolly good time listening to this episode, you can show your appreciation for free by leaving a smashing 5-star review of your favourite podcast app. If you fancy handing over some dosh, it's a piece of cake. Mosey on over to... I gotta stop that silly voice. Mosey over to the paypal.me/podcast JMC, or a monthly donation can be achieved through the Patreon at patreon.com/Just Making Conversation.
We are going to be just making conversation with Drayton, Martin Drayton, who has skived off his secret job as a British spy to have a chin mag with us.
Martin is known for his modelling page, EmDee Models, where he flaunts himself as a plastic whisperer, a clever alibi for his spying activities for sure.
So let's test the car battery and shine the light into the eyes of this Brit living abroad. To find out what makes it tick and how much ransom money the American government want to get Martin back. What have you been doing this week then?
I have done very little, is the honest truth. I have repaired a couple of kits that were kindly sent to me that were pre-built because they got a little bit damaged in the post. I have painted my tractor a rusty colour.
Oh, okay.
So that's something that's going on with me.
What tractor is it you're painting?
So this is the Mini-R German tractor. Thank you for asking me. I haven't got the box in front of me. Foolishly.
Is this the one with this kind of swept back cab?
It has, yeah. The German traffic tractor D8532 from Mini-Art. And it's got like buggy eyes and stuff. The one small little tiny thing with it is that the sprue gates are very, very close to the parts, and some of the parts are super small. And I did manage to break one small little roddy sort of thing that goes underneath. But I didn't manage to break it once. I broke it in 4 times. So I had to replace that, which wasn't a massive deal.
What did you replace it with?
I actually used some stretch sprue.
Wow. Gosh. Very good.
Look at me, all being like super...
Yeah. Proper modeler.
So that's all I've really been doing. I'm. This will sound really crazy given the fact we've got that many weeks now till Telford. I am starting to spend a lot of time putting stuff together for Telford.
Good.
All lovely jubbly, but it has taken me away from the modelling. However, with that said, I have got a few days off coming very soon, and I will be benching it up big time.
And when you're benching it, would you happen to have a Munsell Cup update at all for anyone listening?
Well, I think on the next time we record, there will be a smashing.
Okay. Well, let's do the properly. Let's do the jingle.
Oh, okay. I keep getting all so excited, I forget the jingle.
Got to do the jingle, mate. Otherwise, people get cross.
Munsell Cup.
Let's talk about the Munsell Cup. Boom.
Woohoo! So there is a very small update. I haven't started it, I confess. However, I've been sat down today and spoken to very, very strongly and determinedly. Believe it or not, I'm going to go a little left field. I've had a look through all the spares that I've got. I've had a look through all the amazing things that I could mask it up with and completely spend loads of time on it. Then I opened the box and went, do you know what? I think I might just build it out of the box as it is.
That is very left field for you.
Well, that's it. I thought it would surprise people. So, yes, the plan is to just build the thing
Right.
and enjoy the process. And yeah.
Oh, which are there's how many decor options are there? 2, 3, 4?
That's a very good question. Well presented.
Thank you.
I like the fact that we discussed this before we started recording.
You think that we record from your model room, that you'd actually have the model there? Maybe I'm just expecting too much from my professional co-host to actually have the move through cut build in front of you.
I don't want to stress anyone.
You've lost it.
Oh, here it is. For some reason, I can't get the lid off. What's going on? Have you been around here and taken my lid?
I ain't touched your lid.
Oh, that's right then. So the answer to your question, is that there is 2 options.
Okay, which one are you going to do?
I think I will go for option B.
Okay. There we go. Option B.
So the kit is, just to remind you, that the Ural 4320 military truck of the Armed Forces of Ukraine from ICM in 172nd, kit number 72708.
Awesome. Have you been keeping up with what's been going on, what other people have been building on the Facebook?
So I have seen today, funnily enough, not that we discussed this earlier, but I have seen today someone using a resin tyre with the words of trying to make a pig's ear out of a sow's purse out of a pig's ear, or a pig's ear out of a sow's purse, one or the other. You never know. Oh, I can't believe I'm about to challenge myself. You never know. I might be quite far on with the build by the next time we record.
I look forward to the live popping up when you're going to start the kit. You will let me know, right?
We should do a live, because it would be only fair because I made you do one. So it would have been last week, actually, thinking about it.
What would?
Well, when we do the live, it will be last week.
Oh, yes. That was fun, wasn't it, that live?
But I hope to see you last week.
No, we better bloody do it, because I don't know how time travel works. But if we haven't done the live and we're recording that we had done the live, does the live appear? Is it like in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, where they say, hey, how are we going to get the car keys for the car? We haven't got time to go over to do the thing. And they go, you know what? In the future, what I'll do is I'll get my time machine, I'll put the car keys into the time machine, and then I'll go back in time and I'll leave them behind this bush. And he reaches behind the bush, the car keys are there. We can do that. We can go back in time, do the live. Anyway, there we go. That's the Munsell update. Anything else going on?
No, tell me about you. What you've been doing?
I've been doing my shuttle. So like I said before, I've been moving my shed around, and I've kind of almost got there now to a point where I'm happy with it. I've got like the switches next to me that I can turn on, lights and stuff like that. So I have to move my fat ass. I've got my desk here with the drawers and everything. Pretty good. Computer's all sorted. Microphone's in the right place. Camera's in the right place. And the other day I did a session online, and I got some spraying done. So I basically reprimed, resanded.
Oh, look at that.
All the parts for the 747. So I'm sending James the wing. It's done. It's all primed up. There's a point to where I'm just going to go, you know what? I'm not going to be able to remove every single seam line from every single bit. I've sanded it, had a go at it enough now. I'm now kind of getting cross with it, which is a shame because I didn't want to. I wanted to just, if you need to do it, but I've got to a point where I've just lost the interest in making it 100% perfect. So it'll be as good as I want it to be. And that's that. There are some little bits on the engines where it hasn't quite connected properly, and I've done my best to fill it, but you're not going to notice it because I'm not going to mention it to anyone, so no one will see it. None listens to the podcast apart from you. So.
And Mum. Hi, Mum.
Hi, Mum. I will be putting some white onto that soon. I've done the undercarriage. All those are painted up. It's very simple. You just got to put white on the main part of the undercarriage, and the tyres are black. It's nice to have a space that I'm happy with. Been doing a lot of podcast listening. That's been fun, more than usual. Speaking of podcasts, Plastic Model Mojo is celebrating this month because they are releasing their 100th episode.
That is amazing. Well done.
So if you haven't listened to Plastic Model Mojo, it's Dave and Mike. They talk about their model spheres, they talk about their modeling fluid. I just want to wish some congratulations.
Yes, I shall definitely be raising a glass to you listening to your 100th episode, and I will let you know the tipple of choice.
Yeah, well done, you guys. We've got no comments or anything to go through.
No.
We've got no extra bits and bobs, so we'll just go straight to the interview.
There he is, just jumping out now, dressed as the Queen.
What? So your parachute in. We're going to be talking to Mr. Martin Drayton. He's not James Bond. He might sound like it, but he's not. He's a fantastic modeler. He won't mind me saying so, I'm sure. But I've been following Martin's work for a couple of years, I would say, at least. And I've certainly been a fan of EmDee Models on Facebook. And I think the first time I saw your work was you were building a diorama of. It was a tank that had been blown out and there was some graffiti on it, and you were copying it exactly. And I thought that was really, really cool.
Oh, yeah. That was a Bat of the Bulge build from a photograph. Yeah.
So we thought we'd get you on because I know that you're a big fan of the British accent and you're starved of talking to people from this country. So we thought we'd get you on and have a chat. And
that's very nice. Yes.
Welcome, Martin Drayton.
Thank you.
God blimey, Governor. Apples and pears and all that, Governor.
Bit of God blimey, Governor. I flew with someone who did a Dick Van Dyke accent for the entire 3 days, and I threatened to stab him in the eye by the end of it.
God blimey.
It was terrible. Terrible.
Mm-hmm. I've got a list of Cockney rhyming slang on my screen, so I'll delete that if that's the case.
Nice bit of grumble.
No. So my first question, Martin, then I know we've been chatting before about modelling and stuff, but my first question is, are you a spy?
I'm not a spy. I'm here to teach people how to do things properly.
Right.
When I was, I work as a flight attendant, and I've had American passengers say, "Well, why are you here? What are you doing here?" I went, "Well, someone has to teach you how to do the things properly. That's why."
I bet they love that.
That's when they're not asking me if I'm Australian.
Does that happen?
Daily.
He has got a skippy twang to his voice, in fairness.
Oh, stop. I do not. I've had people so confident they've asked me what part of Australia I'm from.
What's that, Skippy?
Oh my God. So there's an untrained ear, I suppose, you could understand. Once you've heard the accents together.
Well, I usually ask them if they've seen Crocodile Dundee.
Right.
Well, do I sound like that? And if I do, I will shoot myself.
That's not a knife. So dioramas is your thing.
It's become that, yeah.
That'll please James, because James is all about diorama, aren't you?
Oh, it's my bag.
Where does that come from? What is your driving force for the diorama?
I think growing up, I used to watch a lot of war films, and I have them milling around in my head. And so when I build vehicles, planes, whatever, I like to see them in their natural environment. And then from that, I like there to be a story. And again, I think that's from the movies and stuff growing up. But, I love watching really nice builds of aircraft and ships and tanks. But to me, they just don't look finished. Like sitting there on a piece of paper just doesn't look right. And for me, I like to have some sort of story, because when I'm building something, I don't just build a tank. I think about how it was used, where it was used, what kind of combat they saw. And I want to replicate that. And I think for me, it's an incomplete picture. It doesn't feel right. Even now, if I'm going to do just a tank, I think, right, I'm obviously going to do a base. And then I have to force myself not to let it expand into a diorama, because that's what normally happens. I build a base, turns into a vignette, then I get some figures out, and it's 1 foot by 1 foot with 8 figures on it.
Yeah, just put the brakes on.
Yeah.
Do you end up starting to research? Because I know that happens to me. If I have a model kit that perhaps I don't know anything much about, if it's a gift, I'll start researching it and find some interesting story, find a photograph in a book.
Yeah.
And then I'm off.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the same. That's part of the whole process that I really enjoy is if for example, a KV-1, I had seen it in a Russian movie. and thought it was pretty cool, a big hulking beast of a tank, and then started reading up about it a bit and looking what battles it was in and how the Germans dealt with it at the beginning. And I just had to build something with it in it, and it had to have a story about the tank.
Right.
And then, growing up in the UK, well, you guys know, you learn a lot about the Western Front and what happened there.
Mm-hmm.
And very little I learned about the Eastern Front until I started back modeling. And then I started watching on Amazon. There's a lot of Russian language movies that are now dubbed. Interesting seeing their viewpoint of it. And to me, what happened on the Eastern Front makes the Western Front almost look like a punch up in a pub. Massive, massive numbers involved and huge, huge sweeping battles. And I knew very little about them. So it's been great to do research and read about stuff and find out about stuff. And I found that so much that we took as gospel when I was growing up about World War II and about particular figures, and Hitler said this and ordered this, and now we find out through research that none of that's right. It's like relearning the whole thing again.
Oh.
And that's really, really interesting to me.
Well, the weather was all different out there as well, wasn't
it? Yeah. I think that's why Battle of the Bulge fascinates me, because in one of my two jobs, I teach snowboarding and I'm out in snow and cold weather and stuff. So I can really imagine what they went through to be, and I can't even believe sleeping outdoors in a hole in those conditions while someone's trying to kill you. It's just crazy.
Do you get embarrassed telling your hobby friends that you're a snowboarder?
Coming out as a snowboarder.
I've got to tell you something. I'm super cool.
Well, it just means I have another life.
That's really interesting. So, I mean, I'm getting from what you're saying that your area or where you'd like to concentrate is more the Eastern Front. Is that too generalized in an assumption?
Yeah, no, I don't have a fixed thing that I work on. What I try and do though is to keep myself from losing mojo or getting bored, is that I try not to do two similar builds of dioramas in a row. So for example, if I do a World War II diorama on the Eastern Front, the next one I might be something sci-fi, and then after that it might be something on the Western Front, and after that it might be something from Vietnam. So I hop around between different subjects. And again, Vietnam is another one. Now that I'm living in the States, it was obviously much more of a big deal over here than when I was growing up in England, but I was alive for it.
Yeah.
So that has a different kind of relevance for me.
Yeah, I can relate to that an awful lot. Certainly with the Russian side of things, being married to a Russian and listening to the experiences that she had growing up, which is a similar time frame to me, and what she learned from that period of time is incredibly different to what we were taught. And I honestly don't remember anything about the Eastern Front in any of the education I got whatsoever. That's a real shame.
It's all the blitz and everything else, wasn't it, over here?
We almost sort of deleted that out of the history, so to speak. And I can understand the political reasons for it and all that sort of stuff. It's very interesting, especially with, I'm going to go off on a tangent, I'm so sorry, but especially with the Arctic convoys.
Yeah.
To me, I knew they happened. I've watched some films on it and all the rest, like you did as a kid, but I really didn't know very much about it. And then when the reason I'm building to this is an example of what my wife was taught. So a story came up in the first few years of us being married, where Russia was trying to give the sailors a medal for everything they did for them. And the British government wouldn't allow them to receive them. Been going on for a long, long, long period of time. Anyway, won't go down that road. But I got quite cross with that because I'm like, well, why would we stop that? That's our boys sacrificed so much in such harsh elements to provide relief for us as much as for them.
Yeah.
It seemed crazy to me. So of course I'm having this conversation with my wife about, we sent our boys over and helped you and delivered food and weapons and we did.
Yeah.
No, you didn't. And I was astonished that she knew nothing of that.
Lend-Lease.
But yet the government were trying to give a medal. It just all, do you know what I mean? It just
Yeah.
nothing matched, and it's just like, how did that happen? I'm quite interested in the Eastern Front. I got to be honest.
Because I was listening to We Have Ways. I listen to them a lot. And they were talking to some Russian. Well, they were talking to someone who was getting archives from Russia, and how they had almost obliterated any reference to Lend-Lease. And it was only through listening to some of this new information that I realized just how big a deal it was, because it allowed them time to move their factories back beyond German bombing range, and just build the massive amount of equipment that they did end up with. And the Lend-Lease got them through that.
Yeah.
And the quantities were mind-blowing.
Yeah. You've got me right on a tangent now. The other thing I found out just recently, this year, was part of the Lend-Lease deal was that things weren't paid for. If they survived and were in one piece, they were the ones they paid for.
Right.
So they destroyed them and buried them. In Poland, there is a place, they've literally, this year, they've uncovered a full Hurricane in a forest that literally was just, hole was dug, pushed in, covered over.
Wow.
Because then it didn't exist.
And they didn't have to pay for it.
And I'm like, wow, that's just mind-blowing to me completely.
You do that with my car.
Yeah.
My car. Yeah, I'm not paying for it. It's not here.
Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about. I never had one. But yeah, it's just, it is, you're right. I mean, I'm not like you. I don't do an awful lot of research. I'll pick an element from a picture possibly, or...
I saw you do an elephant before.
I have, yeah. It's still in the room.
Oh, that's the one they're always talking about, the elephant in the room.
Yeah, that's the same one.
You put me right off. What was I saying?
Who knows what you were talking
Elephant. Oh no, that's right. I don't do an awful lot of research. So I'll pick an element from something that grabs my imagination.
Dumbo.
And then I go off on a tangent. And like you, and I'm sitting here chuckling to myself because I'm like you. I'll do a figure or a vehicle and go, oh, do you know what? I need to build a house, just the front of the house.
Yeah.
Now I've built the whole of the house. And I'm like, well, I might as well do the interior while I'm at it. I'm now doing the wiring and the plumbing, curtains. And all of a sudden I'm like, what? This was only meant to be a couple of weeks. What's going on?
And
yeah.
Well, this house that I'm building now, that was going to be just a little bit in a corner. It started off as just being wreckage. Now it's 2 stories.
Before you even said that, because obviously before we started recording, I can see this building. I said, what are you building? What are you building? Oh, look at that. And he showed me, and there was no roof on it. It was just the outside. And I'm looking at it thinking, he hadn't done anything in the middle there. Oh, look, there's the roof. And the roof is literally, when I say a roof, it's not a complete roof. It is just the rafters and all that sort of stuff ready for the individual tiles, because, you know, we can't do a whole piece of
the tile stuff came in strips.
Did you cut them off?
I took them all.
But yeah, you're right. It's just same.
It's the thickness.
You've heard this in another podcast. And I won't really go on about it, but building a any more than a single story house for someone like me and you is a complete stupid idea. Don't go any further than that first floor, because not only do you get carried away, but also each floor becomes more and more technical, because you're like, oh, I can do that better. I can definitely do that better. So whatever you do, if you haven't done it already, do not go past 2 floors.
No.
I went to 6. Don't do it.
Oh my God. See, I have to think about transporting. That's the only thing that stops me. One of the first dioramas that I was going to build, I think I'd done one, and I suddenly had this idea to do Resident Evil. I'd been watching the film series, and I thought, could do Resident Evil diorama. And I found a few figures that were suitable, and it was just going to be a little scene. Fast forward, it's now 3 stories, 2 of which are underground, an elevator shaft. There's 150 zombies. I've done about 30 special forces guys. There's Umbrella Corporation heavies. There's 4 vehicles, and I had to stop because I realized if I built this thing, I wouldn't actually be able to get it out of the room I was building it in. So no one was ever going to see it, just me.
It's a bit like a train layout, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
They get built into rooms and garages and things and all sorts, don't they? You'd have to build like special cut lines in it so you could take it apart and take it to shows and things. I thought you were going to say that you can take it to shows because you were flying, so you would have to put it in a box or something that you could carry it on. Get it out.
Now, see, I get to fly free, but what do? I drive to competitions because I build dioramas.
That's interesting.
Because I can't take them. I could take maybe one thing.
That is interesting. You know, to take anything in the hold on a flight there.
I wouldn't trust them. I work for airlines. I wouldn't trust them.
Gotcha. Yes.
Put fragile on it if you want to see someone lob something.
When you're flying, can you just not get the co-pilot to hold it? He's got nothing else to do.
Yeah, he's not doing anything anyway.
He's only a spare, isn't he?
Well, funny you should say that. I'm going on a trip tomorrow, and I'm carrying a box that's got 3 machining Krieger kits in it that belong to TJ that he left at the show.
I see. Are you charging a seat per kit?
Could be expensive.
Are they going to fly first class? That would be funny.
I've got access to my own little personal cupboard, so I can carefully put stuff in. And
is it big enough for 3 machining Krieger kits?
Yeah.
Is it? That's pretty cool.
With a free glass of champagne, just so that they know they're being treated properly. Or a pack of hobnobs. I don't suppose you got those.
They have hobnobs at World Market down the road, but they're an arm and a leg. They're about $8 or something ridiculous.
Proper McVitie's ones.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow. Well, that's fine. It's worth paying for.
Anytime my wife goes back to England or I go back, we take an empty bag and it comes back laden.
With just hobnobs?
Everything.
Tea bags?
Just finished the last packet of barbecue flavor hula hoops.
You can't get hoops out there?
No.
No.
They've missed the joys of putting them on the end of your fingers and eating them off one at a time.
Yeah.
They wouldn't understand the logic of that.
I have big pig tit fingers, so there's no way I would get a hula hoop.
They do big hula hoops now.
What?
Yeah, honestly, they do pig tit hula hoops.
Are they pig tit flavour?
Oh, pig tit sized hula hoops.
Pork scratchings.
So tell me about this, the diorama that I was talking about earlier on, which was the a blown up tank with a big sign on it saying this doesn't work now.
So what happened was I was looking at pictures of German vehicles online and came across this Jagdpanzer 4. And it's a tank that prior to starting back modeling, I had not heard of. I mean, I was 99% aircraft modeling. I knew all the, Panthers and Leopards and Jagdtigers and all those, but I'd never heard of this tank. And I thought it was pretty cool, low profile. And I thought, yeah, I'd quite like to build one. So I was looking for pictures of one. And I came across this black and white picture of one that was knocked out in front of a Belgian farmhouse. And it had a graffiti on it, "This don't work, Spearhead caught it, too bad." So I thought, well, I need to find out what this is about. I started down the research rabbit hole, and Spearhead is the name of the American third tank division is Spearhead. So I thought, well, let me find out as much as I can. And I got to the point I contacted all sorts of Battle of the Bulge groups on Facebook and just on the internet and sent them copies of the picture. And they all said, oh, yeah, it's a well-known picture. It's very famous. We don't know where it is, though. And we don't know anything about it. We don't know what unit it was. And the tank is burnt out on the side that you can see. And where it says bad, you can see there's a bit of the casemate has dropped down. So there's been a huge explosion inside. There's no roof on it. And the roof is on the front, leaning on the tank on the side.
Oh, yeah, I see.
Yeah.
Gosh.
So it's blown up from inside, it's cooked off, but I don't know what caused that, whether it was abandoned and some demolition people dropped something in it, or whether it was hit from the other side, because there's no damage on this side, but there was a huge explosion because you can see the rollers in the middle on the ground in the front. There's one roller there and one to the left of it.
Okay.
And they graffitied it and moved on. So I wanted to build this. There's one thing in dioramas called dead space. Now, from this perspective, if you build that tank as is, there'll be a massive space between the building and the tank.
Yeah.
And there's nothing there except rubble and crap. So I had to do something different to fill that gap in. So what I did was I just imagined that the guys who did the graffiti were still there before they drove off and left it. So I had a couple of the guys in the foreground, one standing on the tank, talking to a guy looking up at him. There was a bucket on the ground with a bit of white paint coming out of it. There was a half track, a Greyhound armored car in the gap between the tank and the building. Crews were rearming. They were looking at some Germans who were underneath tarpaulins.
Oh, steady.
Go with your tarp build. A couple of Germans under tarps. And the half track was providing to rearm the Greyhound. So I had a scene dotted around it. And there was also a cameraman who was talking to a guy in the background, and he was telling people at home how he was winning the war single-handedly and that kind of thing.
Okay.
It went from just being, that's what I mean. It went from just being a tank in a building to 3 vehicles, 20 figures.
Then the picture that I've got, you've tried to recreate the angles that the original photograph was. So you can't see any of the figures. You can't see any of the other. No,
they're not in that shot. That shot is before I put any of the figures in.
Gotcha. So I can see that you've really tried to recreate the exact positions of all the wheels and the debris around it as well. Brilliant.
Yeah, I tried as much as I could.
Yeah, that was really good.
It's quite good fun doing that, I find. Just to spot things, and because the more you look at the original photo, the more things you see and go, oh yeah, I can put that in. I put that little bits of wood. Maybe looks like a mirror on the second floor of the house or first floor.
So this is the thing. And so you look at the photograph, and then you, like you said, you want to build something. What I like about your stuff is that you've got time depicted in that you've got time. But something happened before it, and something's obviously going to happen, or something's happened since. It's not a static thing. It always seems to be moving. So, like, to get movement and time into a model.
Thank you.
It's a clever way of doing things because I've said quite often I don't like doing that sort of build. You're using a flat image to try and recreate something, especially when you've only got the one image. But the fact you've added a moment of time before the original picture was taken, that actually appeals. That's quite cool. I like that. Yeah, it was a good build.
Thanks. That was fun. I really enjoyed doing that one.
And that all came from just seeing this photograph, did it?
Yeah.
Have you found any other ones where they've graffitied on things? Reported on the state of the engine for others?
No, I haven't.
To be honest, if I saw that and didn't see the graffiti, I would have assumed it didn't work anymore. It doesn't need a sign on it, to be honest. The photograph, the original photograph, looks like it's been photoshopped, like the lettering has been brightened up or something.
Yeah, and I think it's because the thing got burnt out. So the white really shows up.
Yeah.
Of course. Yeah.
There are a few other pictures like that sort of thing where they've daubed a little bit of common sense, shall we say, on the side of something. Ironic sense, maybe. I don't know. Yeah, there's a few like that, but I've not seen that picture before you actually used it. So, but it's very cool. It is very cool.
Yeah.
What you're working on now, obviously, you've gone down the railway road with the building, etc. I'm assuming from what we're talking about very quickly, is that from a picture or is that just your imagination, that building?
No, this one is just my imagination. There were things that I wanted to capture in the diorama, and I found references to justify it, to make it work.
Yeah.
I wanted to do a building that had brickwork because I just got hold of some balsa foam and I was keen to play with it.
Oh, you two should be buddies.
So good, that stuff. So good.
Honestly, that stuff is just so awesome.
I know, but so expensive.
Yeah.
I wanted to do that, and I really enjoy painting wood and making it look old. So I was thinking, how can I have wood and brick in the same building? And then just scouring the internet for railway buildings and stuff, I found one that had brick on the bottom floor and wood clad on the top. So that's what I did. And it has a little overhang. I had in my head what I wanted to do with this diorama and what I was trying to say, and then sort of adapted it to make it work.
Would you say balsa foam is the best?
Absolutely, without doubt. I've used a lot of pink foam. It's easy to get. I can just run down to the hardware store and get a big sheet of it. But you can get drag marks on it, and it's quite high memory. So you have to actually cut it and then make indentations and stuff. But this balsa foam, you look at it wrong and it leaves a mark. You can do really intricate designs on it and brickwork and stuff, and it's there forever. It's really nice.
Yeah.
And it's the other thing as well that I've discovered is you can spray it with lacquers or anything, rattle cans, and it doesn't affect it at all.
No.
You do that to pink foam and it turns to jelly before your eyes.
Wow.
Yeah, it's quite soul destroyed, isn't it? You've got to be really careful with that.
Yeah, you have to learn what the distance is that you can spray from.
Yeah. I got introduced to it 5 years or so ago. I've got a small stock up on the shelf, but I'm scared to use it because I can't get hold of it as well as I used to be able to.
Yeah,
and it has risen in price somewhat. The one thing with that stuff as well is you can a little bit like foam. So if you start with a flat base, you can add things into it or on top of it or into it and all that sort of thing. But the joy of the balsa foam is you can cut a little piece out that you're going to put, say, for example, a statue in or something like that. And if you're really brave and clever, you can cut that out and then put another piece inside that, which you then can carve into whatever you want as well.
Yeah.
And it's so versatile. That's what I find. Yeah. The only downside to it, which I'm sure you will agree, is the fine dust that comes from it is horrendous to clean up.
Yes.
Because I did a video on it and I'm like, yeah, look, it's really easy to do all this, that, and that. Malcolm always tells me off for wiping my desk. I genuinely think that's where it comes from. It's because I had months of going, oh, what's that? Oh.
When I first used it here at this table, it looked like I'd eaten a bag of Cheetos. It was orange dust everywhere.
Can we say what's it instead?
What's it?
Yeah, what's it? I had no idea that it was going to do that, and everything, my phone, everything was covered in orange dust. Finding it for 2 days now. I'm sure if I sneeze, it'll be orange.
I'm going to just do a health warning here. It isn't something that's recommended to you use a mask or anything with, but however, do not wipe your nose midway through carving through balsa foam because it will scare the bejesus out of you, because it did me. I was like, call an ambulance. It is fantastic stuff. It really is. The only small thing I found with it was trying to do curves. I don't know if you've done curves at all yet, but trying to do a curved surface. Once you get it, it's really easy. But oh my god, the learning curve. See what I did there? It's immense. But yeah, you can do arches and all that sort of stuff. And as long as it's on a flat surface and you're carving into it to make the arch, fine. But I try to use odd bits which you glue together and then carve and all that. Didn't work greatly, if I'm honest, but I think I just need to practice a bit more.
Well, the person who got me into it is a guy over here called Bruce McRae, who's an amazing diorama builder. He's my Yoda. He's been advising me, and he's got 50 years in the movie industry in special effects and model building.
Ooh.
So he's worked on Star Wars movies, Hunt for Red October, Starship Troopers, you name it, he's worked on it. And he's actually got a Facebook page now that's got some of that older stuff in there. But he was telling me how back in the day when money was no object on movies, he was working on Red October and they finished it. And they said, oh, yeah, Bruce, if you want any of this stuff, go ahead and take it. He had a piece of balsa foam the size of a door. He walked away with. He said, I could die and come back and I will never finish using this foam.
Have you used any card at all?
Plastic card.
Like grey card?
Right?
No, not plastic card, just proper
Like,
card.
no.
So,
I think over here they call it
so
cardstock.
cardstock, yeah, exactly that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So stuff like this. I'm just holding up a bit of card. So this is quite thick. This
That's
piece
really
I just
thick.
happened to pick out the drawer. Yeah, that's oh, hang on, what's that? That's probably about 4 mil, I guess, thick. So that's what I would use as a base.
Right.
You can get it in lots of thicknesses. Give that a go to make a building.
All right. Because I've never seen that thicker than, like what we'd call cardboard. I've never seen it any thicker than that.
So that it comes from I think it's 0.5 of a mil and goes up to about 5 mil. If you look,
Who stocks it?
well, funny enough, Sprue Box does, but you could they're easily got hold of. But the reason being, it's here. Oh, you've got me all excited.
Shall I just come back in 10 minutes or?
What do you mean 10 minutes? We're going to be here longer than that.
We'll be smoking a cigarette. Ooh, yeah.
So I'm just
Lovely.
holding up my experiment with card that I did. Now I don't know if you can see that.
The inset stone cornering.
Yeah, so that stone cornering, but can you see the detail inside the stone cornering?
Oh, yeah. Wow.
That's not card.
What is that?
That's something from a haberdashery store.
Oh, like brocade stuff.
Yeah.
Ah, very clever.
Give it a go. It's super exciting.
I tell you, I don't mean any disrespect to people who just build armor and just build planes and stats, but diorama people have a lot of imagination and are very shrewd at finding things that they can use that don't cost an arm and a leg and have AK written on them. Oop. Well, you look at a lot of the AK diorama stuff, and it's amazing stuff. But a lot of it, there's alternatives out there.
Oh yeah, definitely.
They've clearly reboxed, rebadged, and resold.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be interested to see when AK bring out their nickel elastic.
I have been in contact with AK to see whether they will stock some nickel elastic because I do have quite a lot of it in which I need to get rid of. I can't tell you what the email said, but anyway, yes.
When I started that Resident Evil thing, the stuff that I was collecting was ridiculous. I'd be going to the equivalent of car boot sales and thrift stores and going, oh yeah, I could paint that grey and that'd look, yeah, and just picking stuff up left, right, and centre. And people say, oh, what did you use there? What did you use there? And it's not modelling stuff.
No.
And I think when I started, what I think helped me a lot was I wasn't restricted to just looking at military modeling stuff. I started drifting into looking at the guys who do Warhammer stuff and do, terrain there, or train guys and the stuff that they use and they do. And in some areas, they're way ahead of us, and in others, we might be ahead of them. Yeah. But it's really good, I think, to look and see what other people in other genres of the hobby on a wider scale are doing, because some of it really helps.
Yeah, we're big advocates for that, aren't we, on this show? We're always talking about the other hobbies and their skill set that they have. I mean, we're all using pretty much the same stuff. As well.
I think I've definitely learned faster because of that, looking at all these different things. Yeah,
that's right. They also see they also display things differently too. Like, I don't know if you've been to a railway exhibition in the UK recently.
No.
But there's the different way that they are displayed. Like the railway exhibitors are actually paid to go. They are given their hotel expenses, and travel expenses, and invited rather than the other way around. And so it's just a whole sort of different ethos, I suppose, as well towards the shows, which is interesting. But their stuff is really expensive as well.
But is that because most railway modelers are ex-train drivers? They're just used to getting everything they want.
Oh, wow, that's topical.
Just throwing it out there.
It's politics talk.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that railway modelers are overpaid. I'm not saying that. That wasn't what I said.
But
the drivers. Yeah. Oh dear. No, you're right. And I think that's one of the joys of if you are a diorama nut. I think that's one of the joys is that you're constantly looking at things and going, oh no, I can certainly do something with that, or you sit here scratching your head thinking, oh, I don't know how I'm going to make that, and then all of a sudden you go out for a walk with the dog or something and go, that's what I want.
If I've done a couple of commercial vehicles and I have to do them wrecked, ruined, abandoned, whatever, otherwise they're boring. I love seeing really nicely done car models, and I always walk through the car park when I go to nationals, but I think it's a very fine line between them looking toy-like and them looking really good. And there was a friend of mine put me onto a guy who was actually just interviewed on Sprue Cutters, and his page on Instagram, and his stuff that would make me make car models. The stuff that he does is so good and so realistic. But when it's not that level, there's so much stuff out there that just looks like die cast.
Do you think that's because with your model making, you tend to have something with context, and a car that's just sat on potentially a plain base or just on a tablecloth looks like a toy car?
It may be down to presentation. I look around at model competitions and I immediately gravitate towards, if I'm looking at, say, armor, cars, whatever, ones that actually have a base of some kind. I look at those first. And it doesn't catch my eye when it's just sitting on a piece of paper. Well, each their own, but I find it hard to, it's like not respecting the model you just built. Build a scene around, build a base for it. Put it in its environment.
Certainly when I go around any competition areas, that I do struggle if there's no context. That's not with every model. Certainly cars, I tend to have that problem with.
Yeah.
I don't generally look at them and go, well, that looks like a dinky car. I don't have that reaction, but because there's no context to it, I'm not drawn to it.
Yeah.
Whereas if you've got a car on a tarmac road with a bit of grass, for example, or in like a really basic workshop sort of, so there's no tools, there's no figures, it just looks like it's in a workshop. I can appreciate what they've done, and I appreciate the model more as well. Funnily enough, I truly believe that's down to just because I'm diorama sort of guy at heart, and everything needs to have context.
That's our problem.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
because that's why we go off on a tangent when we build a small diorama.
Stoke models, Martin Aveyard.
Yeah, see that's it.
Look at it. His stuff is so good, he has to put his hand in it.
Well, he takes a photograph of the thing that he has made, and then he has to, you're right, he has to then say, actually, guys, this is a model. Look how small. Or he has massive hands.
There's a giant.
They're not going to be pig tits, not that size.
They'll be pigs.
But you look at that, and it's got context.
Yeah.
He's gone to IKEA. He's got a couple of cupboards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that's what it is. It's that's got complete context, even though it's got a great big giant's hand in it.
But it's clean. This particular one is clean, but I mean the little tiny details that make it. It's not 100% clean. If you look at the sills underneath, there's some weathering on that on the sills. Very, very
behind the front wheel. Yeah.
And also, someone's not pulled the kitchen roll off cleanly. So on the right-hand side...
Yes. Good grief.
Someone's made a bodge of that.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
Do you know what the silly part is? As soon as you showed that picture, that was the first thing I saw. I didn't see the car. I just saw the hand towel. Yeah. And that's just like, oh my God, I got to go over there and tear that straight because that's going to drive me nuts. Oh, there's a car. Oh, that's nice. I like that. Yeah. Yeah, so if you see me walking around a petrol station, that is what I'm doing. I'm not trying to jack your car or anything. It is, you didn't tear that paper properly.
Well, that's the other thing, James. You find you take photographs randomly all over the place. And I was on the plane, and people were getting off the plane. And I was saying goodbye to them. Bye-bye, have a nice day and all this. And I happened to glance to my left out the window, and I could see a baggage trolley, the baggage carts out there, and it was painted white, but it had rust and stuff around the bottom, and I had to whip my phone out. So I'm taking a picture out the window. I'm going, yeah, bye. People are like, what on earth are you doing?
No, they didn't. They didn't say that. They just walked off the plane and went, don't worry. He's that weird Australian guy.
That's the reason why the whole tarp build exists.
Yeah.
It's because I was interested and fascinated by the way that a tarp was being weathered over time and how it was ignored, but it had just interesting colors and patterns and everything else in it. And that's where the whole tarp build comes in. But I also took loads of photographs of the side of some Russian vehicles that are in the back of the Duxford as well, because there was rain streaks coming off like windows on the side of the command truck or something.
Right.
But it was just the way that the different colors, and there was light greens and dark greens and brown greens and all sorts. It made a nice image, even just taking the photograph.
Duxford, if they listen to this, which I'm sure they won't, but if they did,
of course not,
they'd be absolutely devastated in the fact they spent millions of pounds putting these things in context in the building. And I think Malcolm took 2 or 3 pictures inside the building.
I saw a tarp that you would have loved. I did a trip back to England not very long ago on a layover, and I got to RAF Hendon Museum, and I hadn't been there since I was in Air Cadets, a lifetime ago. And they had a 2-seater Focke-Wulf 190 with a tarp over part of it.
Ooh. Did you know about the tarp build when you saw that, or was this pre-tarp?
It was pre-tarp.
Oh, pre-tarp. Okay, so I'll let you off.
Pre-tarp?
Yeah, pre-tarp build.
Oh, okay.
But now you would take a photograph of that for us, wouldn't you?
I might have one. I'm going to have a look.
Have you planned any tarp builds?
He's got one. He's got one. He has got one.
In his tarp folder, yeah. Next to his rust folder. Are you going to join us in the tarp build?
I might. I've got some. That same Steve Munsell from Value Gear that I mentioned. He gave me some of the 2-part stuff that he uses to mix together to make stuff, and I've made a couple of little tarps that have gone onto armored vehicles. So
okay.
Oh, there's going to be a tarp definitely in this one that I'm doing now. I'm going to have some fuel barrels, and they're going to have to be a big old tarp draped over them.
There you go. Has to be a tarp on there. I know for a fact that you have built a model with a tarp on it. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That was the first one where I tried to make a tarp after he gave me that stuff. So it's the Jag Panther, and I just wanted to do a tarp. There was no reason for me to do it. I wasn't hiding anything. But there's one on each side, actually. There's one there at the back of the tank, and there's one on the left side on the skirt about to fall off.
I haven't got a photograph of that one. This is the Jag Panther 213.
Yeah.
I see. Yeah. So when I was looking through your stuff, I was like, oh, he's done some cheeky tarps. Got to talk about those.
And a new toy to play with. And I thought, right, I'm building this. He's giving me this stuff. I'll stick someone on here.
It's fascinating, isn't it? This tarp thing.
It's really nice.
So when you weathered up your tarp and everything, did you just apply some color to it, or did you?
So what I did was I painted it in a beigey color, because I find that when I'm doing any kind of weathering, that I like to go lighter with the base color, because I can always darken it, and it will darken as I weather. So I like using oils quite a bit, and I love them because they're so versatile. Because if you make a mistake, you use too much, you just stick some more white spirit on and wipe it away, and you can start again.
Yeah.
So I did an oil wash on it, and then which darkens it slightly. So I used burnt umber, and then I go back with the original base color and do some highlights.
Brilliant.
And that's just enough to bring out the detail.
Those tracks as well are gorgeous on there.
Thank you.
Wheels and everything.
They're actually from there's a company over here called Scale Colors Acrylic Paint. A guy called Jeff Herne runs it, and he does SC 3D, and they're 3D printed tracks.
Yeah.
And I had posted in progress pictures of this, and he said, "Oh, you need some tracks for that."
Yeah, very nice.
And these are his Jag Panther ones, and they're really nice because they're just single pin. And to do one side, I think took me 20 minutes.
Gosh, that is
I
really
absolutely despise individual track lengths.
Going away from the actual models, you mentioned that you were part of a model club.
Yeah, a couple actually.
Okay.
I live in Utah, and I'm pretty lucky that we originally had two, and one of them is Salt Lake IPMS, and that's see, I live up in the mountains, so it's go down to Salt Lake, and it's about 25 minutes from where I live. And then there's another one, Northern Utah Scale Modeling, and that one's an hour's drive to get to. It's I think how long it is. Actually, it's more than an hour. It's about 65 miles each way.
Gosh.
It's very different here in the US to the UK when it comes to driving distances. Because I know from living in London and living on the South Coast, you spend an hour in a car, you've probably gone 15 miles max. But here, people don't think anything of driving ridiculous distances. You know, one night I got home from this model club and I thought, I just drove 130 miles round trip and didn't think anything of it, just for the evening, just to hang out with some other modelers.
Wow. Yeah, I couldn't imagine that, because if you drove for that long, went from London, you'd end up in Portsmouth or something, just for the evening.
Yeah. And would I go to Portsmouth for a meeting and then come back for a model meeting? No.
Well, no one would ever want to go to Portsmouth anyway, but
Pompey.
Goodbye to all our Portsmouth listeners.
Who just turned off.
Yeah, both of you. Bye.
So now we actually have a third model club, but this one is an AMPS club in Salt Lake. And I don't know if you know about it. There's AMPS is the Armor Preservation Society. So they're a separate armor-only organization.
Yeah.
And, with all the hoo-ha about judging and stuff, people are looking more at what they do because they do the gold, silver, bronze system. So from my point of view, if you go to an event and it's first, second, third, 3 people's work is being recognized. Now, if you weren't one of those 3, you don't know if you were 4th or 44th. And there's no input to you or no information on why you weren't in one of those 3 and how you might get better. There's no feedback.
Yeah.
In the gold, silver, bronze, you're being judged against set criteria. It's irrelevant who else is there, what else they've brought. Your stuff is being looked at to see if it reaches A level. One of the criticisms I've heard is that people say, it's participation award. Well, I was just at an IPS competition. There were 2 categories where one had only 1 vehicle in it and another one only had 2. So if I had run over to one of the vendors, grabbed something and stuck 4 wheels on it and put it in, I'd have at least got 3rd, or in the other category, 2nd.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
And I think with the gold, silver, bronze, it's a roadmap to improvement. And, we all want to get better. And if with the 1, 2, 3, it's just a case of who's better on the day. And it means if Joe Bloggs, who came first, if he didn't turn up to the next comp, you might be 2nd and 3rd. You move up to 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. And, it's, I just don't see it as logical. Over here, it's very popular because it's the whole American psyche with, got to be number 1, got to win, and all this kind of bullshit. And they want to have a winner. But I think now more and more people are thinking about it and thinking, well, I'd like to know where I stand, where my work is. Is it gold standard? Is it silver? Is it bronze? Not who turned up on the day and is going to bump my model down. They didn't go next competition, so I'm going to do a bit better. It's
yeah.
So with that in mind, just as a passing thought, I've not done judging, so I've got no experience of it. Obviously, you're going through the criteria, etc. Do you think there would be the ability? Do you think there would be the ability, in effect, to fill out a card for each model, or do you think that's just completely impractical?
Well, I've been at, I think it was Las Vegas competition last year. They actually had feedback forms, and what you could do, they were bright yellow. You could pick one up when you got your entry forms, and if you wanted feedback, you'd slip that under your model. And we had time when we were judging, because you're discussing them anyway.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
But while you're discussing them, you could jot a few things down. it doesn't have to be an essay.
No.
Just you need to pay attention to this, or watch out for decal silvering, or whatever.
Yeah.
Just a few little things to point you in the right direction.
For me personally, that I wouldn't really care which system it was, but I think that would be really helpful, especially if those feedback forms are there when people are wandering around to see who won what and, you know, who got recognized, who didn't, without touching, because you can't touch things, but you could at least see the feedback on each model. So you could then understand a little bit more about the judging process as well.
Yeah.
Even if you don't put models into competition, you can see the reasoning as to why certain ones, because it's something I've always said, especially at Telford, that was my aim, was to put my model in and to see whether A looked like I should take it off because I'm not worthy, and to see how it matched the people that are around it.
Yeah.
But also to try and listen to what people were saying when they were viewing it.
Yeah.
Which is really, really difficult. Peter, the guy that won my particular category, I pinned him up against the wall and said, "Tell me why mine's crap." He was kind enough to give me 5 minutes of his time just to say, well, these are the things that I wouldn't have done, or I would change, or whatever. And at the time, literally that moment after we'd finished and he'd gone off to get a coffee and run away from me, the more I thought about it, the more I'm like, actually, no, I see what he's saying. So to have those little feedback forms, which effectively, like you say, as a judge, you're potentially ticking boxes and saying, oh yeah, he glued everything in the right place and the undercarriage isn't on the top and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. Otherwise, your only alternative is to try and, like you found that guy, is to find someone who's willing to spend a bit of time with you. And I'm lucky at certain shows. That guy I mentioned, Bruce, he's one. There's an English guy called Tim. There's a few people around who I can say, have a look at this and tell me what you think. And that's how I can get feedback, because there aren't a lot of people I know who do dioramas. Most of the clubs I go to, one is mostly aircraft, another one is mostly armor, and then the other one is a bit of everything. But with the two systems, another thing that I noticed was with the IPMS system, it was all subtractive. It was all negative. It was all, okay, let's have a look first. Oh, wheels are out. Yep, not looking at that one anymore. We just went through the AMPS training online in the club meeting, and it's the opposite way of thinking. Oh, this is done well, that's done well, this is done well, okay, there's something else wrong here, but these two things are good, three things that are good, and so on. It was almost the opposite way of thinking about it. And I think they do that in some of the European comps as well. It's overall effect, overall impression, and then they go down from there.
Figures judged in that way.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see what happens. There's a lot of people who can be quite vocal about these sort of things.
The excrement has hit the air circulation device over here.
Yes, it has, very much so at the moment.
Yeah.
And I think there are two sides to that argument, that it's healthy that it's out there and being spoken about, but also incredibly negative as well.
Yeah. It's hard. Yeah.
And it's a shame. Yeah. But yeah, I think I might print some of those forms off.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's nothing to stop you doing that. You could do that, on your general club table, stick a little thing saying, "Please tell me what you think," and provide them with lots and lots of paper.
Oh, ouch.
or a very big bin. What do you think of this? Well, you could put it in there. Come back and find your table is completely bare. Oh, fair enough.
Because generally people don't want feedback at the table, because they're showing off the stuff. They don't want to be told that their model's wrong, not in terms of historical accuracy, but why the model isn't as good as perhaps the one next to it. Asking the general populace might be quite interesting to find out which model is best in terms of the eyes of the people that are there. I reckon it would be different than what the judges have chosen. The people's choice is probably quite an important trophy.
Yeah.
Hey, here's an idea. We'll pop down to Tesco's, right? And in Tesco's, you get these little round blue coins that you can pop in a charity. Decide which charity gets some money, basically.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. We get a load of those, just stand at the door and hand them out, one to every person, people's choice. And then they can walk around the show, and as they go around, find the one they love. See who's got the biggest pile of plastic coins.
The other way of doing it is giving out nice challenge coins. That's the thing that goes on now. It doesn't give you feedback, does it? That's if you put something next to it.
No, that's true.
Unless you go up to the person.
Thinking of that, like having that little form back to competition and such, but I think that'd be a great idea. I love that because you can at Telford, you can go over and see the judging guys, and they've got all the paperwork there anyway.
Yeah.
So they've made that decision, and you can they'll give you some information, like the scores, if you like. I think that's what it is. It's just like a score sheet.
But wouldn't it be great if those scores were printed and published?
Once you've done the judging, you don't need it. Once they've made that decision and they've rewarded what they're rewarding, put those pieces of paper next to the models. Let the modeler take it home with them. But more importantly, as long as the modeler doesn't come up and swipe it off straight away, everybody else has got the opportunity to have a scan. So if you've got a model in a group of 12 builds, you can have a look and go, oh, okay, yeah, and I can see the composition wasn't right on mine. You can physically see the differences that are written then.
Yeah.
Again, it turns a negative into a bit more of a positive, because the other experience I've had is with friends that have taken modelers and models and it's the best they've ever done. There's no denying what they've presented is the best they've ever. But unfortunately, in that group, it's not as amazing as the other bits that are there. They can look at the other cards and go, oh, yeah, no, okay, I can see that point. They may pay that attention to that particular part that they missed last time.
Yeah.
But they're progressing, they're moving forward, and there's a sense of achievement, I would think, personally.
No, I agree with that. I mean, from my point of view, doing dioramas over here in the States, I go to something like the Nationals, and I know I haven't got a snowball's chance in hell because the guys in that category are legends in the hobby. That guy I mentioned who's had 50 years in special effects. There's guys who I look at their stuff on magazines. I go to a seminar. I went to a seminar at Omaha, and there were 3 guys running a diorama seminar. And these are guys who won best of shows, and they started showing their models. And I looked at them on the screen and thought, I've just seen that next to mine, and that one, and that one. Okay, I'm not going to medal, but where am I at? I've got no feedback. I don't know. Am I way off? Am I getting closer? Should I be building airplanes instead?
Should you go back on the slopes?
I don't know. Yeah, go back to snowboarding. Thing is, with the AMP system, with that gold, silver, bronze, every model is assessed. Every model is looked at. So there would be feedback there.
I think that would quell some of the drama, and it seems like a relatively simple exercise. There'll be people that are listening to this podcast right now who judge on a regular basis going, oh my God, what is this man talking about?
They are clueless.
Yeah, absolutely idiot. And my name's Malcolm, by the way.
And you are listening to the Triple P.
Yeah.
Obviously, you say you've not been doing the model making that long. Is there a particular picture or a particular diorama that you want to build that you haven't yet done, that in a way would be sort of in your mind's eye the pinnacle of your journey?
The one that I'm doing right now is it does mean a lot to me because it's to represent and pay tribute to a group of men who were not given the recognition they were due at the time, because it's based on the 761st Tank Battalion, which was an all-black African-American tank unit that faced, like the Red Tails, they faced prejudice in the States and when they got to Europe, and made quite a contribution. It's taken decades for them to get recognized for it. When you're training in your country and members of your unit are being lynched and beaten, and you still want to fight for that country, and then when you come back, nothing has changed. You are now beaten because you're walking around in a uniform and people don't think you should be in one. That build means a lot to me, and I'm hoping, if it turns out good enough, I want to talk to the African American Museum in Washington, see if they're interested in taking it.
Yeah.
I don't really have a build in my future that there is a pinnacle build for me, and one will pop up. At this point, there isn't one that's, in the distance that I'm working towards. I'm just trying to get better at this point. Just trying to get experience and just improve my skills. And because every build I do, I look at and I go, yeah, I could have done that better. I could have done this better. And I want to get to a point where I can build something and go, that's as good as I can do. That's it. Even now, when I look at the components I did for that Resident Evil one that I mentioned, I keep thinking, yeah, I should go back and do some more on it. But I look at the figures that I did, and my figures are much better now. My armor is much better now. And it's like, I can't use any of that. Anybody want 150 zombies?
What scale are they?
135th.
Sorry, not my scale. Sorry.
My stuff is progressing. I'm still finding that I can see quite big differences with every build that I do. Until that slows down a bit, I haven't got anything in my sights in the future yet.
Doing the 761st Battalion, then how's your figure painting skills? Because if you're going to be doing obviously the men in this diorama is the important thing. It's not the vehicle.
Yeah.
How's your figure painting skills? Have you done anything to progress your figure painting?
To progress it, I've practiced a lot. That's one thing that people told me I needed to do. And I have experimented with acrylics and with oils. And at our club, one of the clubs I go to, Barry Biedinger goes there.
Wow, yeah.
From Small Subjects. And he's obviously an outstanding figure painter. And he's given me some good advice. Various people online who've given me loads of advice, who've written to me privately and helped me with information and tips and step-by-steps that they do. Half a dozen different people, and they're all amazing figure painters. So I'm trying to implement all of those things. And the figures that I'm doing right now are the best figures I've done.
Yeah.
Do better in the future, but for right now, this is as good as I can do. I'm going for an overall picture. Yes, the figures are the most important thing, these men. But the way I'm staging it, I'm having everything looking towards them. So I've got German prisoners walking by. Half of them have their heads turned towards this tank crew. I've got American soldiers who are guarding the prisoners. They will have their backs to the viewer, and they're looking in the same direction. So they're not important. You can't see their faces. So it's pushing the focus towards the tank crew. It's all trying to focus in on that point.
Are you going to have like parts of the diorama pointing towards them as well? So your eye is led.
It's the way that it's going to be angled and the way the tank is positioned. The tank will be almost centered.
Yeah.
It'll be obvious where the focus is.
So have you looked into like the diorama space and loci and that kind of thing and planned it out?
Yeah, and the training that we did the other night for the AMPS judging course, we sat through the section on dioramas, and you can see it all online. That is one of the best guides for diorama building I have ever seen.
Oh, right. Okay.
It talks about what you need from a judging point of view, what you're looking for, emphasis on different parts, on how focus is pushed towards different directions and stuff. So using that as a guide, that I think will really help me. I came out of that training wanting to run to my diorama and start work on it. It had me completely fired up. But I found it very, very helpful in diorama planning and just making my stuff better.
Have you read the Shep and Paine book on how to build dioramas?
Yeah, and his stuff is, it's the Bible. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if you haven't read it, and you want to know about dioramas and setting out your dioramas,
and I'm not sure where from, but some of the stuff that I naturally started to do was then confirmed to me when I read that. When I did this training the other night, I thought, yeah, I do that. I didn't know it was a big deal, or that was one of the things that you needed to think about, but that makes complete sense to me. That's why I do it.
Did you do any fine art at all at school?
No. So I don't know where any of it came from.
Did you ever watch Changing Rooms?
I realized when I started back that I didn't have any kind of artistic outlet. for the last, like 3 decades. I've
Right.
done nothing artistic. And so I have all this kind of pent up stuff that I want to get out. I could not possibly build all the dioramas that I want to in my lifetime. You can't. I have so many ideas in my head. I don't have a big stash. I've got maybe about 35 kits,
Right.
and half of those are figure kits. I have plans for every single one.
Yes. Yeah.
In my phone, I have sections on each build that I'm doing and steps in order to do it in. So when I have 10 minutes spare, there's something I can do on that list.
Yeah.
So they're always moving forward. One of the things that I've been doing a lot in the last 18 months is, as I said, I'm a flight attendant, is taking stuff with me to build on the road, because I thought about it and I was flying probably 20 days a month. And I'm thinking, well, that's a lot of time away from home and my family. So when I'm with my family, I want to spend time with them, but I also want to build models. So a solution is I build a lot of stuff on the road. And I used to be a one model at a time person, but I'm not anymore, because I build stuff until it gets to a point where I can't really transport it and it's too fragile. I built some 1/72nd scale vehicles the other day, and a 20 millimeter German anti-aircraft gun that was about 3 inches long.
Yes.
And loads of photo etch. Well, I built that on the road, put it in a hard sandwich box, but now it's at home. I can't take that on the next, it'll get destroyed. So I move on to something else and something else. This next trip that I start tomorrow, I'm taking a railroad water tower from Miniart.
Wow.
And I'm going to build that for the diorama. But it'll only do one trip. Once I've built it and it's padded in here and fragile, I can't take it back on the road again.
I see. Yes. So does it give you time to de-stress?
It's perfect for that. And it's quite a stressful job. I generally work as flight leader. So I'm up front and dealing with people in first class. And the sense of entitlement sometimes it's hard not to laugh in someone's face at the stuff that they say. It's absolutely ridiculous, some of the things people complain about.
I can imagine.
So it's nice at the end of the day, get in my hotel room, and I'm thinking about it while I'm flying. So I know exactly what I'm going to do when I get there. Break out a kit, turn the table lamp on, stick the TV on, and I'm good for a few hours. Nice and relaxed.
That's brilliant. Your own little modeling world.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you got no interest in building any airliners then?
No. Well, I spend all day on them, and I love aircraft, but they're not very exciting. To me, it's like modern armor. They're practical, so they all look very similar to each other. And I don't find them that exciting.
There's still some very interesting stories there surrounding modern armor.
Oh, well, I just built a Merkava because, it looks very different from most of the other tanks around.
I saw that one. And someone commented that it looked like the Millennium Falcon.
Yeah, the turret. Yeah, before I put the gun on it, it did.
What about sci-fi then? Do you have any interest in film and things like that?
Yes, I have. I mean, I grew up on Star Wars. I can date myself. I saw the first movie in the cinema, age 17. So yeah, I do, and I have almost purposely put off building any Star Wars kits because I know once I do, that might be it.
The floodgates will open.
Exactly. I will head down that road. But I recently built a Bandai tank that's a double barrel tank, a huge beast of a thing.
Yeah.
And it looked like a Merkava, a Challenger, and an Abrams had a love child. Got pumped with steroids. It's about the size of a laptop. It's huge. Wow. So I built that, and I just got hold of a hover tank from the same series. And it's got 4 kind of repulsor pads, and that's what it's supposed to make it fly. But I'm taking those off, and I'm going to put 4 big chunky wheels on it, big off-road wheels.
Gotcha.
A friend is printing a rocket launcher, a bit like the MLRS system.
Yeah.
To go on the back.
Yeah.
So I'm doing some scratch building and conversion, and so it's another new thing to try. I did Battlestar Galactica. I did the Viper Mark One. I did that.
Did you give that one away? Or was it somebody else?
I just gave it to Scott Gentry.
Oh, was you? Right, yeah. Okay.
He's a Viper feed. He's long admired that build. And our house is filling up and I need to get rid of stuff. So it was 2 birds, 1 stone. Here you go. Here's a gift. He then gave me an unbuilt Viper Mark 7. So I'm 1 out, 1 in. It's like, okay.
You got to charge him for building it for him.
Well, the thing is, when I build it and finish it, he'll probably get it anyway.
Yeah. So there's a picture also on EmDee Scale Models, which is this guy.
Oh, yes.
They're cave troll from Lord of the Rings.
Yes.
Now, I'm a massive fan of the cave troll.
Right.
What's the dealio behind him? Because he's so different to what you're normally doing.
Yeah. So I was visiting a friend who 3D prints, and another friend had 3D printed a cave troll for him. These are plastic posse guys. Scott just handed me, he said, "Oh, here, take this." And I looked at it and thought, yeah, I'm going to have some fun with that. It was a good chance for me to work on my airbrushing skills. And I love the Lord of the Rings movies. I think they're fantastic. Mm-hmm. Doug from the posse has sent me the armored version. So it's pretty much the same figure, but with a chest plate and a helmet. And I'm really looking forward to doing that one. I had a recent competition and there was, I saw a figure that looked a bit like something from Assassin's Creed, a kind of hooded figure. And I do want to get into painting stuff like that, figures. And I just see things that I look at and think that would be fun to paint. And it doesn't matter what genre they are, where they come from. I have a swordfish sitting in my stash because I looked at that and thought, I love Fleet Air Arm camouflage. When I did that Viper, just getting to do it in, different shades of gray with the carbon scoring and stuff. Mm-hmm. It got me looking at modern aircraft, and I got a Prowler, the EA6B, and I'm going to do that because I'm really looking forward to painting it.
Right. In the same sort of colours.
Yeah. And I have that experience with the Viper to call on. So
love it. Martin, thank you very much for your time and your chat.
It's been a pleasure.
I only have one last question. It's a really more important one. Do you spell modelling with 2 L's or 1?
Depends who I'm talking to.
Nice answer.
I find that living in the States, I have to be bilingual because they don't speak English here. That's all the Americans turned off now.
Yeah, bye. Yeah, brilliant. Mate, it's been great. It's really, really cool. I'm really happy to spend my evening with you. Thank you very much for the company.
Well, thank you for doing this and for inviting me, and because it's late back in England.
It is, yeah. Well, that's the way it is, isn't it, James? We always have to record late.
Yeah, it's just the nature of the beast. So it'll be another night where I only get an hour's sleep. So that's cool.
Well, Ginny, you don't need sleep.
It'll help. Well, no, look at this face. Does this need beauty sleep?
Don't answer that. It's a trick question.
There's no way enough sleep's going to make any difference to this face. So just stay up. I'm not a diorama guru in any means whatsoever, but want to hang out anytime and talk dioramas, just give me a shout. I'm more than happy to.
Absolutely. I'd love to.
Yeah, I do love a diorama, and it's actually been really interesting because a lot of the things in which you said, I can like looking in a mirror.
Yes.
Yeah.
Cheers, Martin. Thank you very much, mate.
Yeah, thanks for your time, buddy.
Thank you.
So you can take the modeler out of England, but you can't take the England out of the modeler. Martin's work gives us inspiration to try new things and push what's possible with the hobby.
Remembering that Martin is relatively new to the hobby is a marker for how this community can provide the support and encouragement needed to allow for craftsmanship to thrive.
Next time, we'll be just making conversation about other subjects relating to this daft hobby of ours. You've been listening to Just Making Conversation with
James Skiffins.
and Malcolm Childs.
Follow us on Facebook, where we post photos, updates, and other nonsense.
Find us on Spotify, Amazon Music, iTunes, Google Podcasts, and all those others.
Let us know what you're just making and what your thoughts are on the conversation in this episode.
A very, very big thank you to the following supporters from paypal.me/podcast JMC and all those that have signed up to the Patreon. And that is patreon.com/Just Speaking Conversation. A massive thank you to the following supporters from paypal.me/podcast JMC and all you Patreon lovely supporters at patreon.com/Just Speaking Conversation.
Ready?
Amen.
That's a lot of people. Philippe Lafreniere, Johan Franson, Mike Beep Stucker, Mike Shelley, Mark Harriet, Elliot Compredi, Adam Kieran Druster, Craig Nichols Elliott, Robert Lane, Dean Ivan, Bill and Mordecai, Callum from Mike and Jean's podcast, Paint All the Meanings Peter, Brad, Warren, Tim, Black Rifle, John, Julian, Chuck, Beck, Awahi, Mark, Simon, the Jersey Gent, Steve Lee, Costas, Mark, Ray, Neil Twice, Robert, Andrew Jude, John, Mike, Jeff, Richard, Lynn, Gordon, and 7 others.
Well done, you. If you do show your support, leave your name so we can print it on the roll of honour on the towel of the next episode. Goodbye.
Goodbye.